And we're back. I'm in a car because I don't know. I go to the library to get my Wi-Fi. It's poor artist kind of thing. I don't know. This is the ice for today. It's gonna be in the Chick-fil-A cup. A lot of ice sound. They kind of started. I'm trying to get sponsors. We're here with Mackenzie.
Hi.
She's she's here. I don't know. We'll kind of go with like what do you do? Just kind of like generally.
Okay, so I am a recent college grad. I majored in theater, like theater arts, I guess is like technically what the degree is in. So right now, since I graduated, like I technically graduated last summer because I was just like finishing up like a GE or something that I didn't take in the spring. And then since the pandemic has started, um I have been teaching theater classes, like social distancing theater classes for little kids. So they're actually like really little. It's like music and theater classes
Mhm.
um from a company that I had worked for like a summer before where they used to do it more like at museums and stuff like that, but because of the world we're living in. So I do that. I was finishing up an internship in the fall that was in like script development. Don't do that anymore. And it was really tough because it was unpaid. So it was like very tricky.
What kind of internship was it?
It was in like script development, so I would read like incoming scripts for documentaries, and sometimes they were like videos too, and I just basically had to write coverage on them. So I had to write like a couple pages just on like plot, character
How'd you get that?
development. I through my school actually. So I graduated from the University of Southern California.
Okay.
Um and I'd also like before the pandemic hit, I was doing a different internship more specifically in casting, and it only lasted like January to March of last year. So when I was back home, I originally wanted an internship. So I was just like emailing a bunch of different places, being like, this was like last June or like May, I would say. Because I'd done internships the summer before and I was planning on doing the one right after graduation. But when the pandemic hit, I was like, I don't want that to stop me. Let me see what places will let me do like a virtual internship. So I talked to this place. And I was doing it over the summer, but it got to be trickier than I thought because I mean, with COVID, I thought I was gonna have like all this free time. But I also started like once indoor dining started to open up, I was working at a restaurant back in my town. I was teaching these theater classes. I was finishing up a college class or two, and I was doing this internship, and it was just like a whole lot. So come fall and then come like the last just few months of 2021, I've been teaching like the theater and music classes, babysitting for some of those families. Quit the restaurant job because I don't know, I just had like done it for a couple summers, and if I could, in my mind, I was like, if I can do something else, I will.
Heard
So
that.
I also started kind of another cool venture that I'm working on right now, where with two USC alumni who started a new casting website platform with some funding that they had and are trying to market it now to people, to actors and filmmakers to start signing up for it now that it's been launched. So I'm kind of in the throes of like trying to make that happen with just asking people to sign up. It's completely free. They want like their big long-term goal is to kind of make it into like an actors access backstage style thing.
Yeah.
But their whole the catch for them that they're trying to make is that it's free. So, the other ones you have to pay subscriptions for. And they also want to gear it more towards um like filmmakers that are starting out and make it easier for actors to find work through that, because a lot of times on like actors access and backstage, if they're like big budget films, they usually end up going to kind of big name actors anyway that they're
Thanks.
not really considering like these users signed up for. So yeah, that's kind of the mix and match of everything I'm doing right now, which is just to kind of more just to buy the time of when the before the industry opens up, hopefully. But I do enjoy what I'm doing, and saving up. So yeah.
Heard that. Okay.
Yeah,
So
everything.
many questions. No, so many questions. Let's start with how we met. Do you
Hmm.
remember? Do you remember? Yeah, how we met.
Yes, yeah, we both auditioned for. I mean, we didn't meet when we auditioned because everything is like virtual now, but
Facts.
for the Little Women scene for the University of Texas directing workshop. Um and we were cast as Amy Laurie in the scene, and we got to do it over Zoom for our director's performance workshop, which was really cool.
That's facts. How did you? Okay, I go to UT, so like that's how I knew about that stuff.
Yeah.
How did you like find it?
It was just one of the weeks where I was perusing backstage. I mean, I wasn't on it like
Wow,
that frequently because I'm like, yeah, there's not many auditions right now. Like nothing's really open yet.
facts.
But so I was just like on backstage and I saw it and I love the new most recent adaptation of Little Women. And like if I could be in it, Amy was the role I would want to play, especially like how Florence Pugh did her take on it. So I was like, hey, this is cool. Like let me just, email them and see what happens. So yeah, that's just kind of how I
Okay.
came across it.
Um,
She posted it
where
there.
where were you at the time? Were you at school or were you New York? Where were you at?
I was at home, which is in New York. Yeah, I
Okay.
was because it was like October-ish. Yeah, I was home.
So
So
why Austin? Like, did you okay? So like, how'd you filter on backstage to find that one?
that's a good question. I have a filter that's just like kind of broad but specific to my age where it's just like women between ages 15 and 25, which I feel like is kind of my like type that I can type into.
Heard that?
So it just came up like under that
Yep.
like
Okay.
breakdown filter for some reason.
Heard that.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you okay? So were you born and raised in New York?
I was.
Okay,
Yes.
let's start there. What is New York like?
So New York, because there's a couple parts to New York, so this will be an
Yeah.
interesting thing to think about. So I am not from the city. I right now where I was born, grew up, and where I am right now, back in my hometown. I live on Eastern Long Island, like pretty far out east. I'm about 2 hours from the city.
Okay.
And I grew up in a very small town. Went to public school from like kindergarten through senior year, like same kids that you're with in kindergarten, like the same kids you're with senior year, basically, unless people move, whatever. But it was nice when I was younger. I liked it. My mom also is the school psychologist, and she was with me in my school district from like up until like I was 5 till I was in 8th grade. So it was nice. Like I knew all the teachers. It was a very close knit. Like growing up, I had my tight knit group of friends, and I honestly I loved it until I got to about high school, which is when I started to get like itching to get out because I did realize I really wanted to do acting, and I had done like a children's theater group outside of school, so with kids from different towns, and I just wanted to be like in college, or if not in college, just like somewhere else bigger with socializing with more varied types of people than what I had. So it was a nice upbringing, like up until a certain point.
Mm,
Um, and that being said, I have been going to the city since I was very young, so I can almost like kind of include that in my like growing up, I guess. The city's amazing too. Ever since I was little, I've just loved it again because I'm consider myself a really social person, and so I love like meeting, connecting with different types of people, and the city always like had that to me. Even if I was, just going, if we were going to visit like family friends, even just like being on the streets of the city I was like, wow. So it was it felt like a different world than what I had like 2 hours away, but it wasn't like so different than where, you know, kind of my
yeah.
upbringing was. So
Did you do like any like you say you did like the children's theater? Did you do like any acting like high school and on in New York?
I did. So I did like all my middle school and high school musicals. We only did musicals. We didn't do plays, which sucked because I started to really get into like or be interested in straight acting, like non-musical stuff,
Hmm.
kind of from freshman year on. Um, but the children's theater was great because it kind of like brought me out of my comfort zone because my high school was a super small public high school. They had like no theater funding. They didn't really care about theater. So it was very small pool. It wasn't like a thing that our high school was known for. There are other
Yeah.
high schools around that were. But I did through the children's theater that I did, we performed at a regional like professional theater
Mm,
that my director would rent out. And because I got very close with her, she knew a lot of people there. I actually had the opportunity to audition for like an equity show there that I got cast in my sophomore year. And it was the play The Crucible by Arthur Miller. So
yep.
that was like my first actual play I've ever done. Um, and it really introduced me to, you know, just straight plays. And then from there, interest in acting for TV and film too. So it kind of opens like a whole new world to me and like made me interested in taking classes in that too. So it was really cool, like foray into the other side of the arts that I didn't really get to experience yet up to that point.
Got you. Okay, let's talk about college. Did you you said University of South California, is that right?
Yes, I
Was that first choice, or did you have a bunch of others?
it was my college experience is actually quite interesting because it's a little
Okay.
all over the place. So it was my first choice because I had done a pre-college program there between my junior and senior year, and I was like obsessed with it. I just wanted to be in California because I thought it was going to be like living the life, like all that sort of stuff too.
Yep.
And then so my senior year, but I was auditioning for programs too. I was doing like audition based ones. And I was like kind of narrowing down to like a BFA acting type situation. And so
Was
I
that
was
your
auditioning.
major?
What?
Was that your major? BFA?
It wasn't actually because didn't end up getting into the BFA there. I got into like a few BFAs other places, but I was like for only like a week or so, but I was like devastated that I did not get into the BFA there because in my head at the time, because I know I was 17, and I feel like you see things in a very like linear way from what they tell you.
Facts.
So I was like, I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. But then I looked more into the BA at USC, also saw like the benefits of that. And I was like, I just know that that is where I want to be regardless of the major. So I go there, but my first year there was very difficult. It just because it was a huge school. I was having like a really hard time like with mental health and everything, like being so I just felt like I was like a fish out of water. And I actually started to look at other schools to transfer to. So
Okay.
that's where the second school that I went to, which is called Wagner College, and it's in Staten Island, New York. That's where that comes in
Okay.
because then I transferred there, but
Got you.
then I was there. And
Yep.
I think just because I naturally mature, like from 1920, I transferred back to USC.
Okay.
So little weird. No, very
Yeah.
weird. Not like a
Got you.
typical college situation at all.
What was Wagner like? Same major?
Yes, it was called theater performance, and it was still a BA, but it was kind of structured more like a BFA, I would say.
Okay.
I thought I wanted it at the time because it was smaller. It kind of in my eyes was going to have like the feel of like the theater programs that I grew up with, where everyone takes like the same classes together. Everyone's like one big family. But I got there, I realized I had a lot of other interests than just musical theater and acting.
Mhm.
Um, and like I still wanted to do that, but just that plus some like own like growing, like shedding of old habits that I had to do for myself, like my mental health and just like kind of growing up, I realized that all the things I originally wanted at USC that I just wasn't ready for at the time, I then really wanted. And luckily, talking to my advisor back at USC, it was still an option, like money wise, scholarship, like everything to return and still finish. Like
Yeah.
in a decent amount of time, I did have to do an extra year, but I was on like good scholarship at both schools. Um, and I know people like for a long time that was really like because I was such a perfectionist as a kid, it was like really nerve-wracking for me to say like, oh my God, I have to do it in 5 instead of 4. And I thought it was the worst thing in the world.
Okay.
But that happens when people, change their minds or even change their major. And like so I kind of got over it. It took some time, but yeah, so I ended up finishing at USC and I'm really glad I did because I took, classes in directing and, a bunch of other and had internships in like casting and marketing that I don't think I would have been able to get if I had stayed at Wagner.
Okay. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You got your internships. You touched on briefly. How did you? Let's talk about all of them and how you got them. And
Okay, cool.
what kind of places were they? Like
Sure. Yeah. So the first couple internships I had were like the summer of 2019. And I was like, sometimes I can be a very indecisive person. So I started applying like early 2019, like my spring semester, because it was like my junior year. But I guess I learned through it that there were some internships that you really like the really good ones you have to apply for super early. And I thought I was doing it early by doing it a couple months before, but I met with an internship advisor because the theater program specifically at USC has a great internship advisor. And she kind of geared me towards like the website they have for theater majors to kind of like send their resume out, email these places. And then I also, because I didn't know if I was going to want to be home in New York or if I was going to stay in LA, I kind of started researching on my own, also just some places in New York that I know of through like theaters that are near me that I just knew of growing up, or like just things I was Googling like online. And I was basically just applying to everything to see if I could get anything. It was like one of those situations.
Are these internships like, this is all like behind the crew stuff, right? Or like,
Yeah, they were kind of all over the place. Like none of them, because I also kind of missed the mark on some like summer stock auditions. Like I didn't know if I wanted to be performing that summer, or if like a lot of summer stock like theater shows too over the summer are non-equity, non-union. And since I am already in the union, I would have had to ask for like special permission. All this stuff that like, while I'm at school juggling classes, I just didn't prep for it, didn't do any of that.
son, you're in the union.
Yes, I'm in the theater union. I'm not in SAG-AFTRA.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Finish the internship and then we're
Yeah.
gonna move on to that.
I got you. Yeah, so I ended up interviewing for a couple of internships in LA. And I ended up getting or being offered everyone I interviewed for, which was awesome.
Yeah.
It was like 3 or 4. Like one was for Groundlings actually in LA,
Okay.
like the improv group, but it was for like an administrative position. But the catch with that is they offer you like free classes while you're doing that. The only reason I didn't take that was because they needed an answer within like 4 days, and it was in like April, and I hadn't heard back from other internships yet, and I was weighing the pros and cons, and I just couldn't commit to that yet. So what ended up happening was I interviewed for a couple of spots there, but I was still trying to like secure housing for the summer, which was, also a thing I have to take into consideration, like being so far away from home, and that was a difficult process. So either way, I flew home because it was like May.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what, if I can still find housing in a month or so, maybe I'll do an internship in LA. But I ended up getting 2 in New York. One was for a really small performing arts theater out in the Hamptons, like near me. And it's not a theater, performing arts theater. It's like more like a concert venue. So they'll have like some bigger names and some like bands that are more like oldies type, that parents like or something band. And it was a marketing internship. So I basically like ran their social medias and did like ticketing and outreach for that. At the same time, I also was doing a internship for the New York Musical Theater Festival.
Okay.
Is no longer, apparently they ended a couple months ago, which sucks, but it's a cool program where, new musicals can kind of get up on their feet, and even some that are really successful, make it to Broadway. Like they've had 1 or 2, but so it was a bunch of like college kids that put together a musical review. Like they cast it, they do all that stuff, and like have one night where they can put it up. And then I also, this summer was crazy, and I would never do this again because at the same time, I also like they all kind of overlapped.
Yeah.
I directed a children's theater camp where we did like Frozen Junior. And I ran that. It was crazy. And I still found time to like work a waitressing job, go out and party. Like I was a wreck. I did not sleep. And I just like, I look back at myself, like pictures, and I look like a wreck. 10 out of 10 would not recommend like try and do that all at once. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm doing so many things. This is great. Like I was just kind of trying to build my resume, but it was way too hectic. I'm glad I did it, but I would not do it again.
All right, let's talk about that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, you had an internship?
I did, but it was shorter. It was the one that I like briefly mentioned. I did a casting internship last, like right before the pandemic hit, but I really did it for like 5 weeks because, the pandemic, and it was cool because I, got to learn a little bit about casting, but it basically started before it was over. So
what did they tell you for the casting stuff?
What did they what?
What did they like teach you for the casting stuff? Like stuff they look for, or like how they pick people?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little more like desk work type thing, but it was for a really good company. So I guess I really didn't know what to expect just because it was my first casting internship. I did a lot of I did get to read 2 scripts and do coverage for those.
Okay.
One time they were casting something that I got to check people in for, which was really cool. Of course, there are days, like there was one day I spent moving furniture and then asking somebody else what I could do, there are going to be days like that. And then there was like another day where they were just like, would ask me to do random tasks. They're like, hey, can you compile a list of Middle Eastern actors between the ages of like 25 and 40. And I'm like, okay, sure. Like
Gotcha.
just like, random things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of
You're in the union for theater.
yeah.
I actually don't know about anything about that. I only know about the film one.
Okay.
Let's what is it and how'd you get it? And then is it similar to being a union in film generally, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, it's called Actors Equity, and it's the professional theater union. And yeah, I've been a member. I'm 23 now. I've been a member since I was 15, so my sophomore year of high school, when
Wow.
I did the play, The Crucible, that I auditioned for and got a part through like my children's theater director that recommended me. And at the time I knew nothing about it. I was 15. In my head, I was just like, this is a professional show. Like, oh my gosh, and this is so
Yeah.
cool that I'm auditioning. Like, and I basically, I just had my parents, like, I signed a bunch of paperwork to, like, because I guess to which I learned after the fact, but for this particular instance, I think just because I was a minor, I was also the only minor in the show. I automatically joined the union just by doing this show,
Okay.
because then I had to get like paid. I had to miss school, um,
Can you still
stuff
do
like.
non-union theater, or it has to be all union now?
I. It's kind of bad that I should know more about this, and I don't.
I got you.
Um, because I've technically, like, you're not supposed to be allowed to do non-union theater unless it's under the term of like being educational. So
Okay.
like college theater, you can do. They basically just don't want you doing professional theater that's unpaid if you're. But then again, like, so I did that like when I was a sophomore, and then because my junior and senior year of high school, I was like, there was maybe one or two shows I went, like, my grandma took me to audition for in the city that I didn't get or something. Like, but most of my junior and senior year of high school was spent like, like being a teenager and doing like the shows that were in my school. Like, I wasn't like, there was a moment where, because I thought I was like, so cool after booking this one show where I had like
Yeah.
5 lines, I like wanted to drop out of high school and just like start auditioning. And I did one showcase with like another theater program that I had done, and did get an agent interested and talk to them. By the time I talked to them my junior year, though, they were like, we're going to be honest with you. Like, you're 16, like a lot of the roles in TV and film that you'd be going for, one, you'd have to fully move to LA. Two, they're going to be given to people that are 18 or above. So they're adults. And they were like, we recommend that you focus on like getting into a good school for acting, and then like not worry about getting an agent right now, and like do a summer program. So I just focused on like enjoying high school. I
Okay.
wasn't really auditioning for equity shows. And then come college, I also wasn't really like auditioning for too many, because I was just so busy with school that and I heard like people talking, because I think there's like maybe one or two kids, especially at Wagner, that were part of the union too. And they were like, oh yeah, they suggest that maybe you put your equity card on hold while you're in college, because it precludes you from doing a lot of summer stocks that kids are doing and everything. But I mean, I had a hard enough time deciding where I was like gonna freaking be at college.
Yeah.
So you know, just never did the summer stocks that everyone else was kind of doing.
You have an
And
agent now?
I don't have an agent. I mean, I would love to have an agent now, but um once, the pandemic hit, and kind of at the time that I was like, this is what I'm would love to start looking and everything. I talked to one of my teachers at USC, who I had for like an acting for commercials class, because him and I
Okay.
got pretty close. And I was like, what do you think? Like, should I start looking right now? And he was like, honestly, agents have a hard time because we're in a global pandemic right now finding work for their own rosters. So they're probably not going to be looking to take anyone on right now, just to be completely blunt. I would wait like a couple months, and I'm like, okay. So don't have an agent.
Yeah. You have like a
And
reel and all that?
no, not an official one. There was a reels class that I should have taken at USC, which would have been so smart. But instead
Got you.
of taking it, I took an acting for sitcoms class, which was great.
Got you.
But I kind of have to spend some time probably within the next month or so, like compiling some short films that I did at USC, some like scene work that I have recorded, maybe do like a monologue or scene that I've and record it, like one that I've worked on and know really well, like in a TV film class I took, and like actually put together a reel. I guess I just wasn't sure exactly what it should look like. So something I'm working on, but definitely trying to get there.
Let's talk about LA. So, what's it like?
Ooh, LA. I feel like my experience of LA is still pretty limited because even when I was at school, I mean, I was at USC for 3 different years, but I went to like the touristy spots,
Okay.
but I didn't, or like I traveled, like if a friend had a car, we did like a weekend around, like we went to go do something, but most of it was just like limited to college too, because USC is such a big giant campus that most of what you have is just there. Unless I was going to see like again like a show or go to the beach or get dinner. I also didn't have my own car, so I wasn't really traveling as much. And looking back, I would have loved to travel more. Like I wanted to go down to make it down to San Diego to see that. Like I didn't get to do any of that.
Okay.
Um, so, but what I've gotten to see of LA and everything, I like. Of course, it wasn't what I envisioned in my mind, like in high school when I wanted to get away to California to go to school so badly. Um, and I don't really know like if I would say I like LA or New York more. Because I just don't think I've experienced LA out of context of the college scene yet enough.
Okay. So you didn't do like any like auditions like outside of school, or everything was just kind of school oriented?
No, yeah, I didn't because my first year was so like crazy with me even deciding if figuring out if I wanted to be there. I did do a lot of short films with friends in the film school. And then my last 2 years there were kind of really hectic with me. Clubs, again, student run thing. I just didn't really have the time or know where to start to be auditioning outside of school. And I think there was just like a lot of anxiety with me trying to do things more in school because there's a lot of that like nepotism of being like, oh, people who do more student shows are going to get like, bigger parts in something else here or there. And looking back, I think I would have loved to cuz I don't know. I don't even like sometimes I even regret going to like school for theater and acting, but like looking back, I definitely would have appreciated kind of doing more of my own thing and trusting in that more instead of doing like what I thought I had to do for like either classes or for main stage shows, student run shows. I try to audition and like impress people, or I would have liked to do a lot more auditioning on my own for things. But
Let's talk about the classes
mhm.
that they had you do. So do you feel like for those acting classes, did they teach you anything that you wouldn't have known otherwise? Like kind of like what were those? Yeah. Was it literally just we're just gonna run through stuff, or they like tell you like I don't know. I don't really know the classes you took, so I can't
Yeah,
answer.
no, it's a really good question just because like what I realize now or how I think of it now is I've had conversations like with my friends who went to theater school like where we kind of just talk about some of these.
Yeah.
Um but I mean I've taken a variety of types of classes like Wagner had classes that were so, like more musical theater based because like a more musical theater program or like they would give you like songs based on like what they think you would do good at. You'd have to like come up with a backstory and like perform them and create an inner monologue. And then I took like a couple of scene study type classes where they some teachers would make you focus more on your body and like do like a lot of like exercises to focus on the physicality of performing and supporting your voice, whether it be for singing or just speaking. Um, and then other ones where we work on like improv or like understanding text, a lot of analyzation of that. And then at USC, kind of similar. I took like some dance classes for electives because I would not consider myself a dancer. I can dance. But I just don't have like the training of like doing ballet since I was like 6, like that type thing. So in like the actual professional world, I probably can't call myself a dancer without being laughed at. But
Got you. Heard that.
but
Yeah.
the classes were kind of split up. At least the acting classes were split up sometimes into like style. Like I took one acting class that was like again like more just like a scene study where we were doing scenes from like a specific time era, and then the next like section of that class that you would take the next semester would be like the post-war era type theater. So that's the way like
Okay.
they kind of split it up.
Yeah.
And then on the complete other side, then you could pick classes once you got to be more of like a junior senior
Yeah.
higher division, where I would take like an acting for commercials, acting for TV and film.
So those specifically,
Yeah.
how are those different than just like a regular acting class?
Those were different because they were in they were actually in a room like in the film school, which was cool, where they would be on like, even if you were just doing like, even if the teacher spent half the class like just talking or like instructing you about something, it was still like on camera, like everything was on camera, which was cool. And
They
like all
film
the
the class?
yeah, like even the,
Okay.
I mean, I think they just like, threw it out the end or something, but they like had, or maybe the camera wasn't on the whole time, to be honest. I think sometimes he left it on by accident, but um every scene we did like was on camera so that we could watch it back and like
Okay.
learn the more like intricacies and like the differences between film acting and theater acting. Um and a lot of it too was finding our own material, which I loved, because a lot of times, like with the other like theater classes that were, like post-war or like Arthur Miller, like we'd be assigned scenes, which is cool because that's like the industry too, but a lot of it was like stuff that I didn't necessarily even like see myself doing, or it was really educational. But by the time like all the acting on film commercial classes I took my senior year, so the 2019 to 2020 school year,
Yeah.
and by that time like I kind of had more of an idea of like myself and what I wanted to do. So it was fun to be able to pick my own material, and like pick a scene partner that you wanted to do like a scene from a movie script from. So it was a bit more flexible, and I thought that was fun. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about where you find like your monologues and stuff to audition for.
Good question. I'm still kind of figuring it out because I had this one monologue that I used for like too long, like literally too
Yeah.
long. I used it for like all my college auditions because it was just a very naturally, like I've read it somewhere because I was in some pre-college like prep class where they like taught us to do it. They're like, the short of it is you really just have to read plays and find something that works. So I'm like, this sounds like so
Yeah.
much. But I just found this one monologue that like in my head, I was like this guy at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is so easy to connect to. And his freaking name was the same name that the actual character was too. And I was like, I hate this, but like also this is great. So I used it because it worked really well for like so long. Cause this guy and I were like on and off for much longer than I should have been. But then it started to get stale because I'm like, at some point I like stopped liking him. So I tried doing this like a year ago and I was like, wait, I can't, this is bad because I don't care anymore. So, other monologues, like I recently started doing this comedic monologue, from this play called All New People, which I
Okay.
also just like found, through like research. I think, I just like was Googling like good comedic plays, like for young, like early 20s. A lot of it's just like doing just research. I mean, I'm not the type, like I've read so few plays compared to other people I know that just would like read plays for fun. I like hate reading, which is probably bad, but I just hate it. Like I don't even read books. So for me, that was very difficult to commit to the time of being like, I'm going to just sift through plays and plays until I find a good monologue. So a lot of times I just will like type in keywords in Google and then find plays that have good monologues, because I know that they tell you too, like there are monologue books that people make that
Mhm.
have like just pages of monologues that people write, and they tell you like definitely do not do those because they're not from like a published author. They're not from like out of the
Oh,
context of a storyline.
I've heard that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's where I found them for plays. For You don't really need monologues for film and TV auditions, and I haven't really done a lot of film and TV auditions yet, but I'm starting to realize, and like I think you can do like a monologue from a film every once in a while. Like it depends on the project, or like if you're shooting it for a reel, I think it's okay because like we did film monologues in my film audition class, so you know, like
Okay.
depends.
Do you like the stage more or on camera?
Recently, like the pandemic has been very helpful and instrumental in like really figuring out what I want to do. Also, like kind of getting my confidence back because a lot of times in college I struggled like in and out with because there's just so much competition, there's so much comparison, there's so much like teachers telling you things that you like believe are true but aren't necessarily true. Or like typecasting people, having favorites, just like the pandemic was very helpful for me to like get out of all that and restart. Like, what is it that I want to do? Like, forget about like college is over. Um, and right now, I'm a singer. I grew up doing musical theater. I still like would love to do musicals and like Broadway if it's a type of musical I like. Like I do more contemporary stuff. I'm more of like a belter, like have like a pop voice.
Mhm.
So, but because me and my friends we're two of my best friends from Wagner and I are moving out this summer together and we're deciding if we want to live in LA or New York.
Mm.
So part of that is I was legit just having this conversation where right now I would much rather be like on TV and be like auditioning for TV and film because I just think that like even from just doing self tapes and stuff for the last like year and a half, I just think that's kind of like what I'm better at right now. And where I'm more castable.
Okay.
So with both of those things combined, I think that's just where like my passion lies right now. But I'll take anything.
Heard that.
Mostly, I mean, I hate Shakespeare. I mean, I don't hate it, but that's not my first choice, nor my fifth, 10th. But like
Hey,
mostly I like everything with
let's talk about do you do anything um okay. Okay. So, okay. So I did this whole YouTube thing because of lack of work, right? This is kind of like my own like thing that I'm making. Are you making do you have anything that you do? Do you like make songs? Do you like make like films and stuff? Like do you do anything or do you just strictly just audition and basically that's
I mean, that's awesome. That's really smart what you're doing. I mean, so the short answer is no, I don't. I would
okay.
love to. I just don't really know like where to start. Like I am a singer. I've never really like tried my hand at writing songs. I probably could. I probably should like maybe with some time like start doing that. It's funny because my teacher also like the one who I was talking to about an agent is like spend this time creating your own work, like make short films with friends, like make a YouTube channel. Like he suggested that, but the last couple of months again because I was so busy with like overloading myself with like internships and
Yeah,
jobs I didn't really want to do. I was just doing them to do something
I'm
like
with
for
you.
another take on the resume or something.
Mhm.
I would love to be doing that stuff now, and that is kind of like where I'm, you know, starting to see like what can I do because for fun I have been doing like even like the Zoom scene we did. I've been doing there's like another Facebook group I'm part of where we do like on they cast like online musicals. So I've done like 5 or 6 of those like in the last like 3 months.
Oh wow.
Which is really cool because they're like full length musical, like they cast people just like they would and a
That's a
lot
lot.
of
What's the blocking like?
oh, you just sit and sing and
Oh,
breathe.
okay, just show. Okay.
It's not like that big of a
I was
deal where like
like,
there's
what are
hours
y'all?
of rehearsals. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Um,
You said full
but
length. I was like, yo. Okay, okay, I
yeah,
got you.
oh no.
Yeah, I got you.
And then like in 2 weeks, I'm doing a reading of like one of my friend from USC's like a new play she wrote. So I am like still staying very active with just like performing in any way I can. But I
Yeah.
am looking for like the next like do I make a YouTube channel? Do I like what else? I'm also trying to get into modeling as well.
Okay.
Which is like another thing that I did some photo shoots like for fun over the last couple months with like a family friend and then I had like some other people like reaching out to me that I just did like around Long Island. And I realized I also just have like an interest in that and like fashion, like modeling and trying to I'm actually have to take like pictures this weekend for like an agent.
How'd you get into that stuff? Modeling.
I this is really like the first year like again during the pandemic ironically that I started to think of it in like a serious way
Hmm.
just because I had an agent, a modeling agent reach out to me like 2017, 2018, being like we are interested in like maybe representing you, like can you put together like a portfolio and this and that to send to us. And at the time I was just again in between colleges and like so focused on college that I wasn't really like I think I started trying to like put together a website, but then it fell to the wayside. It wasn't something I could like focus on or even like see myself doing at the time. So I kind of let it go. And then like the last 2 years, again, it wasn't something that I like found a lot of interest in or saw myself wanting to do up until the last couple months where I just started doing like a photo shoot again for fun, just with like my friends, like an outdoor shoot. And then I started realizing like, oh, like when I did 2 more, I was like, I really like this. And I reached back out to the agent and then they were like, yeah, if you want to put together pictures and like send it to us. And then I started compiling a list of like other ones that I might want to apply to. And it's now like something I hope to get done the next
You're
month or
just
so.
like cold applying, just straight up.
For some of them, yeah. For 1 or 2 of them, like I've talked to like one of the agents that have like reached out to me, but I don't know if anything's gonna come of it. It's just like I have fun doing it. It's it's like I feel like it's the same sort of thing as acting, where like you do it because you don't know if you're gonna get signed to like a great agency, but you're kind of like freelancing it, or that's what I'm doing right now. So that has also been like a side hobby. And yeah, and I think like going forward for the next couple of months, I kind of want to pursue it as much as I want to pursue like acting like for the camera. And it also could be like if I were to get a modeling agent before I were to get like an acting agent, it's still like a way that I could like potentially like
Facts.
get commercials and get like another way maybe into acting for TV and film. So I guess whatever comes first. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
Or if
facts.
either of them comes first. I don't know. So
What
yeah.
okay, if you were to make something on your own, what do you think it'd be? Like what type of YouTube channel do you think you would have?
I think it'd be comedy. Like me and my friends are like
Like
uh,
vlogging or like writing
are
stuff or
already
like
that's a good question. I don't know if it'd be like a vlogging thing or like if we would just like try to like like write scenes,
yeah.
or because me and my other like my 2 good friends that also like major in theater, like one of them's like super super funny, and I like to think I have a good sense of humor. She's also very funny, and we like that's also like the type of stuff we would love to do, like
Yep.
in film and even like a theater. But so maybe like vlogging, maybe some sort of writing. Um, I don't know. I That's a good question, and I feel like I'm gonna be thinking about it now after
Heard
because
that.
because like yeah, I don't know exactly what it would be, but she always like posts like I'm on TikTok and I'll post like stupid TikToks for fun.
Okay.
So
Do
I
you
feel like something like that.
do you write those from scratch? Or like do you just go with the trends?
I do like half and half. Like
Half and half.
most of it was like going with trends for the first couple TikToks I posted
Yeah?
like last summer. And then sometimes I'll like see something that I like get from a trend that's like kind of like an offshoot of it or something similar to that I like thought of something else that could be like an add-on and just do that.
Okay.
It's nothing super original because I
Yeah, I
I
got
do
you.
watch some TikToks and I'm like, that's so smart. I wish I thought I thought of that before they thought of that.
Heard
So
that.
or also like for YouTube singing wise, like I've been trying to get myself to start posting covers.
I was gonna ask you, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you play an
Because again,
instrument or anything?
it's something that I always say I'm going to do, but
Mm.
then I'm never like on it with
Yeah. Do you
like
play any instruments?
no, I
Okay.
can like play the piano kind of enough to like accompany myself with chords and stuff, but I can't do like, full two-hand accompaniment for everything. Um, yeah, I played like the band in high school and that doesn't help because I played the clarinet. And then I would love to learn the guitar because my younger sister can play guitar-ish. So we have them. And I'm pretty quick at like picking things up, so I'm sure I could probably learn like basic guitar too. So yeah.
Let's
It's
talk
hard
about
because I have all these things like I wanna do, and I guess with time and with working, it's always like, what do I, like, wanna put first? And, yeah, but
yeah.
these are all things I think I'm gonna try to get on my start doing.
Let's talk about influences. Uh Actors, actresses you like, entertainers you like.
Yeah, great question. So, I would say for actors, I really like Shailene Woodley.
Okay.
I like a lot of this. Like I'm starting with like kind of the smaller, like not as big name. Not that she's not a big, she's a big name. But like, if I say like Meryl Streep, things like that, like, yeah, that she's everyone's influence because she can fucking act her ass off. But
Heard that.
like growing up, I love Shailene Woodley because like the role she was playing or like roles I'm like, I could do, I mean, at the time, probably
Yeah,
wasn't as
no,
good
I'm
at
with
it, but,
you.
like,
Yeah.
I could do that, or, like, those are the parts I would play. Same thing with, like, Jennifer Lawrence,
Okay.
and she's, like, more
Yeah.
comedic. Anna
We're
Kendrick
similar.
actually does a lot of the stuff that I would, like, want to do because she's, like, both comedy and musical, Anna
Who?
Kendrick.
And the country.
Anna
Okay.
Kendrick.
Yep.
Haley Steinfeld even too, because she's, like, a more of a she also, like, is a pop artist, so kinda, like, all along those lines, like, of actors and actresses there. For guys, I'm obsessed with Eddie Redmayne,
Okay.
um, Miles Teller. I know that, like, people say he's an ass in real life, whatever, but I don't know what his podcast. I heard that. I don't know, like, I don't know Miles Teller, whatever. But, like, I don't know, 'cause I just whatever I say, like, 'cause I think he's so good. I think he is so good. I think he's one of the best, like, young actors, and I just feel like whenever I say Miles Teller, people are like, "Yeah, yeah, but he's I don't know, he seems like he's arrogant." I don't know. I still think he's fantastic. So him, Eddie Redmayne, like, Matt Damon, I love, I
He
love a lot
is
of
significantly different from all the ones you've listed.
yeah, because I'm now thinking, like, older actors, that I really like. Yeah, Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, kind of flipping back now to, like, females. I mean, now that we were talking about, Little Women, Florence Pugh is, like, a force. Um, Timothy Chalamet, I mean, mostly because I was, like, in love with him at first, but then obviously, like, he's a really good actor too. Same thing with Tom Holland, like, I'm absolutely in
Yeah.
love with him, drop anything for him tomorrow, but, like, would get married tomorrow, but, he's also a very good actor, like, it's forget about the fact that I love him, but,
Okay.
uh, who else? I'm trying to think of some, like, other people that are not as,
Yeah, like well known or anything.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, on the theater side too, I have, actors on that side too. Like, there's an actress named Sutton Foster. She's more musical. She has been in a TV show called Bunheads,
Okay.
on like ABC or something, but she's more like musical theater. She's had like a very huge career in musical theater. Um, there's an actress named Renee Rapp who's really young. She booked Broadway at 19. Like a huge role, like didn't go to college right out of high school, and I just love her voice, like, is very different. I love musical theater voices that are different, like sound more like pop rocky, not as much like because
Yeah.
sometimes theater school too, I feel like the way they train you, the way they train your voices, everyone starts to kind of sound the same.
Mhm.
And she has like a very like R&B style voice that just she was in Mean Girls, the musical before it closed, because they turned Mean Girls into a musical on Broadway.
Okay.
And she wants like make her own like pop album too. And since I like singing pop just as much, if not more than like I like doing musical theater and I like pop style musical theater shows, I really like her. Um, and back to TV and film. It's so funny because I feel like I always just like know off the top of my head, like I like all these people. Um, she is so funny. She was in like Rose something. She's British. She's also really, really good. Um, she was in like that she's like those Neighbors movies. But she's also been like other things. Why can't I think of her name? Rose Byrne. Do you know who
Okay.
she is?
No.
I also think she's so funny. I think she's like Bridesmaids too. Um, she's hysterical. Like her sense of humor is just it's like it's different. It's not as like big and like as campy as, but it's so good. Um, I also love like Mahershala Ali. Um,
Okay. That's a lot of influences. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, I wouldn't say I guess I should know. Those all influence like personal influences for me that made me want to go into acting is like
Yeah.
more like the first people I said, Jennifer Lawrence,
Gotcha.
Shailene Woodley, Anna Kendrick. On the guy's side, like Miles Teller. Just because they were all like around or like they were playing characters that were my age and they were all like a lot of those movies they were in were like book to movie adaptations. Like I was reading the books and like I was so those were like my biggest influences because I always wanted to be like you know, on that or on a TV show. Like I grew up watching a lot of Disney, like all Disney
Yeah.
Channel. Also, like Miley Cyrus used to be like my biggest, which is
Of
great, but
course.
not as much. Like I wouldn't consider her an influence anymore. Um, but I mean, not that she's great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. No,
I
I
don't
got you.
do like what she's like doing right now. So yeah,
I
I would
think
say
if
those two.
okay, not bad. I think we kind of could probably figure it out, but I want you to say it. What's the dream job?
I would say like the dream job right now is I would love to be on like a sitcom or like Netflix style
Heard that.
comedy show because they're not always like sitcom style on that show. They're kind of like longer, maybe like an hour or so. But that is like right now what I would love to do. Like
Not
further
bad.
down the road, yeah, sure, like win an
Yeah,
Oscar and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the dream right now is like to be on a TV show.
heard that.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you something,
Mhm.
and I forgot it.
Oh.
I really did. Um, oh yes, in the next 6 months, what do you want to say you've done?
Okay. Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is actually really funny because I don't know. Like, I want this to happen so badly, but I
Okay.
don't know. So I am trying to get on reality TV really badly right now. I like applied and then I had someone like email me and reach out to me and say like we want to hear more about you. And then someone else I'm trying to be on Love Island if you know.
Wow.
Like I
That's pretty.
really
Yeah.
this is my number one thing right now. Like I kid you not, like just
Okay.
being completely honest.
Yeah.
I watch it. I think it would be so freaking fun.
Love Island.
And that is like the goal. Like I am praying. I've like done so many things the last couple of weeks, and I just want someone to ask me for an in-person interview. It might not happen. Like I'm just like, please put me on your show. I have great content, terrible stories that will make you
Yeah.
laugh about like situations with guys. I really think it would be good for me. I think it
Okay.
could happen. So like if I could have anything happen
Yeah.
right now,
Love Island.
it would be that because
Okay.
it would be this summer. But realistically, because I know it's
No,
like it's
no, that's
just
it. It's Love Island. That's
yes,
that's the
that.
move.
But also but also like I could say get an agent and like start auditioning, whether it be for modeling or acting,
Yeah.
and then just like start auditioning. Not necessarily like have to book a job, but it's just gonna be
Yeah.
like it would just be cool to start like going out for TV shows, even if I don't get it, because at least I feel like I'm on like the path to doing what I want. So yeah.
Facts. Not bad. All right. All I heard was Love Island. I tuned out what you just said. But yeah, Love Island. That's it.
Yeah.
Wish you the best of luck.
I thank you. I'm really hoping like I'm
Yeah.
watching like videos about manifestation and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this?
You gotta,
Like I'm
yeah, you have to go for it. Yeah. Heard
trying,
that.
but
Heard
it's
that.
not under my control. So we'll see.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about in the podcast that we have not touched on?
Hmm. I don't I don't think so. I feel like they were great questions. Made me realize a lot of things about like I want to do, and also just yeah. I mean, it was great. I really don't think so.
Nice.
Um, yeah,
Nailed the
been,
conversation.
it's been a pleasure. Yeah,
Not
seriously.
bad. All right, man. I think that's it. Not a bad podcast. How do you want to end it?
Well, one, I just want to say thank you for having me. I mean, this is so cool. I've always wanted to be on a podcast too. So this is my first time being on a podcast. So I can also check that off the list. Like
Love.
2021, I've been on a podcast.
Let's
Um,
go.
so yeah, like thank you. I'm excited to see, like all this stuff, it's just great like that artists are still out here just making like just doing things because we love to
Yeah.
do it. Like that's
I'm
the
gonna
biggest thing that inspires me. So
be honest. This probably would not have happened if you didn't ask for all of our Instagrams.
yes.
You remember? I was roasting you. I was like,
I know.
"What are you doing
And
right now?"
yes, because originally you were like, this is because like your 16-year-old sister thinks I'm cute, isn't it? And I'm like, no, it's because like I actually like I love to connect with people like on Instagram or just like I like to stay, in touch with people that I like worked on something with or just like have connections in
Facts.
different places. So yeah, that was smart that I actually did that. So go me.
And now you're on a podcast.
But
So yeah, not bad.
yes,
All right.
and I'm on a podcast. So thank you for allowing me to check that off the bucket list.
Hey, thank you for being another guest. That's a podcast, man. Stay frosty. It's been Mackenzie, and check Love Island in 6 months. See if she
Oh God,
she did it.
because what if I'm not on it? You can't say that.